A grisly crime scene is discovered in an abandoned trailer in small-town Texas.
You're immediately hit with a foul odor.
I saw a deceased male with his head and torso inside of a large green trash can.
It looked like someone had tried to possibly dispose of the body, but gave up.
The victim is a husband and father of 3. And with the rest of the family nowhere to be found, concerns grow.
There were toys, children's clothes thrown about everywhere. Somebody had left in a hurry. Where's the wife and where are the 3 children?
They were entered into TCIC as missing endangered people. We don't know if this is a potential burglary or robbery.
What unfolds is a homicide investigation with 5 potential victims. But when detectives track down their killer, they find the truth is more disturbing than anything they could have imagined.
She wanted to wipe it off the face of the earth.
She was purchasing items to cover up this crime, all while she had her child in tow.
She's a monster.
You might as well arrest me now, because I'm #1 on the list.
It's the kind of case that causes you to lose sleep at night.
December 4th, 2012. It's a chilly winter day in Red Oak, Texas, when police receive a frantic emergency call. 54-year-old Susanna Asbel says she's outside her son's home with her husband Terry, and they think something terrible has happened.
They were concerned because they had not heard from their son, Marlon Wade Reese, or the daughter-in-law, Amy Reese, in 3 to 4 weeks.
On the 13th or 14th of October, I had this really bad nightmare. Like something had just was crushing my heart. I just knew it was Wade. My husband asked me what was wrong, and I said, it's a bad feeling. Wade was fixing to start a new job in Waxahachie, and I knew the job, they work people like, sometimes they work them 80, 90 hours a week. I thought, well, you know, he's busy, he started his new job, I wasn't no concern or anything.
Susanna says when Thanksgiving came and went without any word from Wade or his wife Amy, she decided it was time to pay them a visit.
On December 4th, I looked at my husband and I said, I don't care what we're doing, we're getting in the vehicle and we're going to Red Oak. As soon as I drove up, I knew something was wrong. Wade's vehicle was parked backwards and it was just full of dirt, like it had not been moved. When I opened the mailbox, it just was bloated with mail. Terry says, well, let me go in the house and see what I can see. He said, you go ask the neighbors if they've seen anything. Got to the neighbor and I said, have you seen Wade or Amy, or have you seen anybody? And they said, no, we hadn't seen them in a while. And then he says, but we have been smelling something from coming that way. And about that time, I heard my husband holler. He said, what's the address here? And I gave him the address. And he says, just, you can't go in there. There's somebody dead in there. And I looked at him and I said, I know it's Wade.
Deputies and investigators quickly arrive and tell Susanna and Terry to wait outside while they search the home.
We entered the residence, which was a mobile home. You're immediately hit with a foul odor consistent with decomposition.
I could immediately see that someone had attempted to pack up the house. There was a TV missing from the wall where it had clearly been on an entertainment center.
There were toys, children's clothes, books, DVDs. It was definitely in disarray. Stuff thrown about everywhere. Somebody had left in a hurry.
In the primary bedroom, they find the source of the smell.
I saw a deceased male lying face down with his head and torso inside of a large green trash can. His feet were out of the trash can and coming through the doorway.
The feet are bound, the hands have been tied, there's a bag over its head. I've worked multiple homicides before this one, but this one was unique. It was shocking. It was apparent that their actions were to get the body completely in the trash can, like they were going to take the trash out.
He had skin slippage and marbling of his skin, which implied that he had been there for quite some time.
We're having multiple discussions about what could have happened, what went on. Is this Wade? Where's the wife? Has he been killed and they've been taken and now we have an abducted wife and abducted children? I want to start talking to people, witnesses, and trying to put the puzzle together.
The Red Oak police showed up and they taped it off, and I just knew it was Wade. I just knew in my heart it was him.
Marlon Wade Reese was born January 5th, 1976 in Las Cruces, New Mexico. He grew up in Northeast Texas, raised by his mother, Susanna.
We're like third and fourth generation Texans, so I love Texas. When we moved to Red Oak, we bought a piece of land and we bought a trailer. Wade was a really good little baby. When he started walking, that's when the fun really started, because he was getting into everything, bringing bugs in his pocket and trying to jump off of stuff, and he just thought he was a tough little guy.
Though his parents split up when he was 6 months old, Wade remained very close with his father.
We were too young. It just wasn't going to stay, and we decided to separate ways, but I had a very good relationship with Wade's father. From the age of 5, Wade used to spend the whole summer with his grandpa and his dad, and he would ride motorcycles like crazy. And as he grew and got bigger, his grandpa would buy Wade whatever he wanted. I got married again, and then I found out I was pregnant with Crystal, and Wade wasn't very excited about having another person, because he'd been almost 6 years, it was just, him and I.
My brother was a very good brother. He definitely protected me, and especially when I got older, there's a lot of boyfriends that he did not like. But growing up, man, we had lots of fun.
After dropping out of high school, Wade followed in his grandfather's footsteps by pursuing a passion for mechanics.
Wade was good at taking cars apart, motorcycles, and he would build things. And he always had a job.
He had quite a few girlfriends. My brother was a worker. It was, let's get my stuff together so that I can go be a man.
He was looking for that right woman. Told him, I said, you may have to kiss a lot of frogs out there till you get that princess.
At the age of 32, Wade finally met his match on a dating website. A 33-year-old single mother named Amy Deaver.
Wade said he just met this nice lady in Fort Worth, and he'd been talking to her, and he just thought she was really cute. She had 2 children. Wade was really protective of them. They got along really well. They were very loving. They was always holding hands and kissing on the couch.
In 2008, Wade and Amy got married.
Wade was just ready to settle down. Wade thought he found the one,
Wade called me and said, Mom, can you take Amy and buy her a dress? And I said, sure, I'll buy her a dress. So I took her, we went to Walmart, she picked out a really nice dress.
Not long after that, Wade had another wish fulfilled when Amy gave birth to their son.
Wade was very ecstatic. Wade knew, well, I got a motorcycle partner now. I've got somebody that can teach how to work on cars.
I really honestly feel like my whole brother's demeanor in life, went up a level, you know what I mean? Okay, this is it. I got my family, I got my son.
I was living in North Dallas, and I talked to my husband, and I said, the trailer house is empty. I'm just going to give it to Wade. Amy was very grateful. He was so happy.
I've never seen them argue, never, not once. Amy and Wade were just Amy and Wade.
But their happy home has become the scene of a grisly murder. And and investigators are trying to determine what happened.
We don't know if this is a potential burglary or robbery or something that just went bad.
I immediately spoke with Terry and Susanna Asbill, and I learned that Amy was missing, the 3 children were missing, her van was missing along with their dogs.
You could hear jibber jabber from the police saying whoever was in there was something on top, and I thought, oh Lord, I thought they were going to find my grandson dead also.
Coming up, the crime scene provides several clues about the killer.
To abuse a body like that just shows an enormous lack of respect for human life.
And the autopsy reveals startling details.
The person stood up outside the bed in a downward manner, shooting while he was asleep.
Before the search for Amy and the children takes an unexpected turn.
The story just kept getting worse.
An unidentified body suspected to be Wade Reese has just been discovered decomposing in his family's mobile home. After securing the crime scene, Red Oak sheriffs put out an alert for Amy Reese and the children.
In the event that anybody were to come in contact with law enforcement, we would be notified. And they were entered into TCIC, NCIC as missing endangered people.
Homicide detectives then take over, scouring the trailer for any clues.
We were collecting blood, articles of evidence that we could use to compare with DNA that potentially could be left at the scene by the suspect.
His head was wrapped in a trash bag. He was bound using duct tape and rope by the legs. I felt like that the trash bag is probably concealing a manner of injury of some type.
I got the impression this was likely a gunshot wound, and the trash bag had been tied over the victim's head to contain the fluids that were actively coming out of his head.
I noted some blood splatter on the bed. I noted a void in the mattress. I ended up cutting that void open where I recovered a projectile that was a bullet.
Investigators aren't able to locate a murder weapon, but they do find empty shell casings, as well as evidence of a hasty cleanup.
There was smeared blood on the trash can and a dolly with blood smeared on it as well.
It looked like someone had tried to possibly dispose of the body, but gave up in the middle and just left.
He was a very tall man, and bodies are not easily movable. That's the reason they use the phrase dead weight.
To abuse a body like that, it just shows an enormous lack of concern or respect for human life.
We couldn't readily identify the body at the scene because of the advanced stages of decomposition.
Outside the home, investigators find another trash can by the curb.
Inside the trash can, we found several plastic or rubber gloves. We found the boxes for borax laundry detergent and carpet deodorizer. I was able to develop fingerprints on the packaging for a 3M respirator mask, which would have been used to block out any sort of decomposition odor. And I was able to find a fingerprint on a box of contractor trash bags.
Several of the gloves that were found, the duct tape, the mask, those items were submitted for DNA analysis.
It was a lucky break that the trash can had not been picked up and all of those items disposed of at that point, because 2 months had gone by.
The crime scene tells detectives this was no simple robbery attempt.
Somebody was trying to mask a scene, and it was apparent by what I was looking at when I was walking around the crime scene that it was quick. It was not well thought out.
When we went into some of the children's bedrooms, we could see that the closets had been cleared out. I saw several suitcases around the house that appeared to be partially packed up and left behind.
It wasn't a situation where somebody was looking to find something. Somebody was leaving in a hurry.
I'm working something like this and I find out there's children. My focus always is, where are the children? What's going on with the children?
Desperate for answers, investigators pull Amy and Wade's bank records.
We investigated the couple's finances and found pattern to a local storage facility in a nearby city. It was in Duncanville, Texas.
We executed a search warrant there, and we found several items of interest inside the storage unit. We found several trash bags that contained bedding that had been stripped from the bed at the house. We found several articles of clothing that had apparent blood on them. We found several firearms and things of that nature. One of the articles of clothing was a pair of camouflage cargo shorts that had blood stains on both sides and within the waistband of the shorts. We were actually shocked that these trash bags were in this storage unit. We did not think it was going to be that easy.
The shorts that were found could have been worn by a male or a female.
We believe that one of the pairs of shorts that we found in the trash bags belonged to our victim.
Detectives send the bloody pants out for testing. But they leave with more than just another piece of forensic evidence.
When we executed that search warrant and met with the storage facility personnel, we learned that Amy had come to the storage facility with the children. They didn't know what Amy was doing, but they watched the children while Amy was in and out of her storage building. Once we were able to put eyes on Amy and the children, we no longer believed Amy had been abducted.
"24 hours into the investigation of the Reese family's disappearance, after speaking to an employee at their storage unit, police have just discovered that Amy and the children are alive. While detectives are working to track them down, they receive the autopsy report.
The doctor who performed the autopsy told us that because of the advanced stages of decomposition, they were going to have to take extra steps to identify them. Mrs. Asbill had relayed that Wade had a tattoo of a Texas Longhorn tattoo on his arm, I believe, and then a Yosemite Sam cartoon character on his chest. Later at the medical examiner's office, the doctor did note tattoos consistent with the description on the body.
Once we were able to get the identification of the decedent, Wade Reese, we continued our process of trying to figure out what happened. My focus immediately was, where's the wife and where are the 3 children? The pathologist made the determination that Wade had been shot on the right side of the head, and that would have been the entry wound, and that the exit wound was right above the left ear. And he would have died instantly. With Wade laying on his side, we concluded that the person stood up outside the bed in a downward manner, shooting Wade while he was turned away from them, asleep.
The medical examiner also notes burns likely caused by sulfuric acid.
It had been thrown on Wade's face. Whoever did this thought they could take that chemical, and I feel like they were trying to dissolve the body, get rid of the body by the chemical eating away at the flesh.
The blood on the shorts found in the Reese's storage unit is confirmed to be Wade's. This, combined with the sighting of Amy and the children, causes detectives to consider Amy a suspect. They talk to Wade's loved ones to see if there's a motive.
Detective Fitzgerald called me, and he says, I'm coming to your house to talk to you. By that time, I'd already cried for 2 days straight. He showed up, and he confirmed it was Wade. I don't think I even cried, to be honest with you. And he said, you don't know any places that they would go. And the only thing I just knew was that Amy's mother lived down in Temple, Texas. She didn't have a very good relationship with her mother, but she still tried to go see her mother because Amy had a little sister.
Amy grew up in South Texas. She grew up in the foster care system. She was a habitual runaway, living with grandparents throughout her childhood. She had been in and out of different group homes.
Amy started at a young age getting in relationships with men.
I want to say the gentleman was probably 20, maybe 25 years older than her.
She had her first child together with this man. This man ultimately was arrested and convicted of sexual assault of a different child.
She directly went to a second relationship, didn't get married, but had another child.
According to Wade's family, he did his best to help Amy and her daughters heal from their traumatic experience.
Amy, she needed somebody that she could rely on, somebody that would nurture her. She didn't have that. She only had one of the little girls half the time. One of the girls went to her grandmother's on the weekend. He wanted to make sure that they knew that they could come to him and they didn't have to worry about anything happening to them, that he was like a safe place.
As far as Wade's mother is concerned, Amy had no reason at all to kill him. But Wade's sister recalls an incident that occurred several months before his death.
Wade and Amy got into a fight one night. Wade went outside and slept in his car in the yard that we had. Well, apparently Amy's daughter called the cops and it's like, my parents are fighting. And the cops showed up and drugged my brother out of his truck while he was asleep and arrested him.
We were able to determine that Amy had also been arrested for assaulting Wade.
We learned that the children had been removed from the home in 2009. But we also learned that they had worked those services and that the children were allowed to be reunited with Amy and Wade.
We were highly concerned for the children initially because we didn't know her status. We didn't know whether or not Miss Reese was involved.
All of the evidence, both circumstantial and physical, pointed towards Amy. It was just a matter of putting it all together.
Coming up, the search for Amy heats up.
Knowing that 2 months had gone by at this point, she could have been anywhere.
And when detectives find her, she makes a startling accusation.
It was abusive. For my daughters, it was getting physical and inappropriate.
So she's levying these accusations against Wade, when in fact, Child Protective Services took the children due to Amy, not her husband.
Days into the search, the unidentified body is now known to be Wade Reese. With the positive ID, detectives are even more intent on finding his wife and 3 children.
There was a teenage daughter and 2 littles. I knew that they had been enrolled in the local Red Oak Independent School District. I was able to talk to administrators and get some key information about the children being unenrolled. It was noted that there was a family emergency.
Records indicate Amy pulled the children out of school on October 15th.
At the scene, when we were going through the mail, it was dated the 16th of October. So the murder occurred right around the time that Amy took the kids out of school. I knew that our target was focusing on Amy.
Knowing that 2 months had gone by at this point, she could have been anywhere in the country or in the world.
Calls to Amy's cell phone are going straight to voicemail, and GPS data has been turned off. So police track her using a more antiquated method, the DMV.
I had our dispatch center start running Amy's name throughout all 50 states, and they were able to get a hit of a Colorado driver's license.
When we found out that Amy was in Colorado, it told us a couple of things. It told us, one, she was okay. We didn't have any reason to believe that she fell victim to anybody. Two, we got pretty excited because we had a general area where we could look for her. We had found the address on her driver's license, and we reached out to the Denver Police Department, requested their assistance.
Denver police locate the children through enrollment information.
We learned that the children were okay. One child had been left with a family member. The other two children, we discovered they were okay. Denver police moved into their procedures and got their local child protective services involved.
When Denver police report to the address listed, they are met by the residents who tell them Amy is not there.
We found out Amy had befriended and was living with the owner, and that owner was able to help her out to watch her kids while she went and looked for a job.
Police convinced the resident to call Amy and falsely tell her that the littlest child is out in the street and they need her to come home.
When Amy responds to the emergency call, she's taken into police custody.
Detective Castro is a part of Denver Police Homicide. He was asked to come in and help, and he met with Amy at headquarters.
My first priority is to, see if I could build a rapport with her. Amy was very responsive to my questions. She was cooperative. She didn't seem like the typical homicide suspect. What I learned from Amy during our interview was that she left Texas to get away from her husband.
Okay, why don't you tell me about that?
He was abusive,
What do you mean he's being abusive?
emotional, verbal, and for the kids, for my daughters, it was getting physical and inappropriate.
They'd had previous fights where they were both arrested. She basically says that, the final straw on this was when Wade picked up her daughter and slammed her on the floor. She knew she had to get out of this relationship for her kids. She said they left on October 14th in the middle of the night. She took their white van.
That's the last time you saw him?
That was the last time I saw him. My daughters and my son, we snuck out of the house, got out what we could get and snuck out.
She said that she returned the next day. She drove around the property a couple times, hoping that he wasn't there. She had to sneak into the house to get their belongings, and then she left. She traveled through Oklahoma, Kansas, and eventually settled here in Denver because she said she liked the area. She wanted to get a job, and she thought that she could come here and basically start a new life. Eventually, we come to a point where I had to ask her if she knew what happened to her husband, and she claimed that she didn't. Just told her, I was just on the phone with Ellis County sheriffs, and he's dead.
He was murdered.
Murdered?
Mm-hmm. Here you are, you're an abused wife. He's being mean to your kids. And you pick up and leave town. I think you did what you had to do to protect your kids. But did you have to do more?
No, I left. When he was sleeping, I left.
I tried to sympathize with her. There's a lot of women in your situation. I think people would understand. I'm trying to draw this out of her, try to get her to explain, why she did this.
To investigators, Amy's response is telling.
I want to go down for this regardless, don't matter. You might as well arrest me now, because I'm number one on the list.
Amy Reese's interview with Denver police raises further suspicions, but she ends it before they can probe any further about Wade's murder.
It doesn't matter even if I have an attorney, I'm gonna go down for this regardless if I did it or not. Life is over.
She ultimately requested an attorney to represent her, and she stopped the interview.
Obviously, we didn't get a confession where she said that she murdered Wade, but I think we narrowed down dates. I thought it was strange that, she left on October 14th and then she had to sneak into the house on the 15th. As an investigator, when I'm hearing this, I'm thinking he's already dead at this point, and she's driving around the property making sure nobody's a witness there.
She told Detective Castro that she had gone back into the house and collected belongings. So she was implicating herself in the crime scene.
Amy is released for the time being, but Denver police keep her under surveillance while detectives continue their investigation, as well as request that she submit her electronic devices for review. When they ask Wade's family about the allegations of abuse, they vehemently deny them.
There was absolutely no proof that Wade had ever harmed any of those children. There was no indication that Wade had been anything other than a loving father.
I'd never seen him yell or get angry. 110% I knew my son would never do anything like that, never.
So she's levying these accusations against Wade when in fact Child Protective Services took the children from the home, and that was due to abuse and neglect by Amy, not her husband.
Investigators obtain a search warrant for Amy's electronic devices, and what they find suggests her reasons for leaving had nothing to do with the children.
When we had forensics go through her computers and phones, we found that she lived a life of deviant sexual acts.
Within days of Wade being dead, she was already on sexually explicit websites and chat rooms. She was sexting with men, sending them graphic photos of herself as if she knew that he was dead. So perhaps Amy was having an affair.
She was tired of Wade. She was ready to start a new life with somebody else. It was apparent with her deviant sexual texting that was going on.
It showed that Amy had no remorse, that she was able to leave her husband rotting in that trailer for 2 months, acting as if nothing was wrong.
But as suspicious as Amy's exploits might be, what detectives need is evidence tying her to the murder.
We discovered they were on government assistance, and that led us to Amy's WIC card. And when we ran a history on that, that's when we started to tie purchases that she had made.
So we're looking at Amy's financials. We were able to locate receipts that indicated she had made purchases both at a Walmart local in Red Oak and then again at a nearby town of Waxahachie.
Investigators compare Amy's purchases to the cleaning supplies found in the Reese's garbage.
I met with the loss prevention folks at Walmart, and we immediately started running some of the barcodes that we had found at the scene. We were able to hone in to the surveillance of when those articles were purchased. We discovered that Amy was on camera. She had her daughter with her. And she's smart, halfway. She goes to the ATM, pulls cash out, and pays for it with cash. Some of the stuff in Red Oak she purchased with her WIC card.
Amy was purchasing items that she was using to cover up this crime, all while she had her child in tow.
When we discovered that she was on video with the trash can, we knew we had her.
Detectives get further confirmation when lab results come back on the fingerprints and DNA they collected.
We discovered Wade's blood along with Amy's fingerprint in a trash bag that contained Wade's blood, which is a direct link to the crime scene.
The latent fingerprints that were found that were confirmed to be Amy's, in addition to the absence of anybody else's prints or physical evidence, led us to get the arrest warrant on Amy.
Investigators are confident that Amy pulled the trigger. Now, prosecutors must convince a jury this mom turned murderer.
Regards to her childhood and how she came up, I don't know how it relates to why she did what she did. I felt that there was obvious tension in the house. For whatever reason, Amy was feeling pressure to get out of this relationship.
I think she was ready to move on to another man. She was tired of Wade and ready to move on. So she killed him. At this point, we are tying up loose ends, making sure we have all our evidence processed. That way the prosecutors have the best case that we can put together to bring justice to Wade's parents and family.
On January 20th, 2013, Amy Reese is extradited from Colorado to Texas, where she is charged with the murder of her husband, Wade Reese.
I stayed in contact with the family of Wade throughout this entire process. They were asking the same questions that we had. Why? Why did she do this? Why could something happen like this to their son?
The evidence we had against Amy was several DNA profiles. We had latent fingerprints. We had her on video purchasing the items that were used in her attempts to conceal or clean up the crime scene.
When her trial begins in April, Amy makes a surprising announcement.
Amy and her lawyer decided she would plead guilty. So the trial was to determine punishment.
I think she knew that the evidence was stacked up against her.
Rather than contesting the details of the murder, the defense makes an appeal to the jury for leniency.
What her attorney tried to do was show that Amy had a very difficult upbringing. When Amy was on the stand, she says that at about age 11, she began to be sexually abused. She was abused by her own father.
I think Amy was trying to put that out there to justify why she killed Wade. She said that he was molesting their children, and she discovered that, and so she killed him to protect her children. We had local advocacy centers in Denver forensically check the children, and we found no evidence to support that theory.
The prosecution argues that Amy's past trauma was not repeated in her life with Wade.
The fact that Amy is now accusing Wade of abuse, both physical, sexual abuse. It feels very convenient.
It seemed that she had a pattern of doing this. It seemed that this was just her way of getting what she wanted. We could see that she communicated with other men quite frequently in a sexual manner, so that could have been one of the motives that she had.
I also believe that she was already talking to other men and was trying to get out of the situation.
She didn't just shoot him. After she found out that she couldn't lift a dead body, that's when she went and got the stuff, the respirators, the gloves, and was going to put him in that trash can. She wanted to wipe him off the face of the earth.
It's the kind of case that causes you to lose sleep at night. In fact, one of the jurors at the trial had to be excused because he was so traumatized by the details of the case.
On April 21st, 2013, the jury renders their verdict.
She was asking for mercy, but the jury did not believe anything she had to say. And they sentenced her to the most that they could, which was life in prison.
I think justice was served. She can't hurt anybody else. She can't hurt the children anymore. She can't hurt anybody. All I have is a box with my son cremated and the memories in my head.
I would never thought something like this would happen to our family. She's a monster. The only thing I can ask her is why? Why can't you just walk away?
The rain starts before anyone realizes she's gone. Not heavy, not dramatic, just a thin, quiet drizzle slipping down the streetlights of North London, turning reflections into smears of light and shadow. The kind of rain that makes everything feel distant, as if the night itself is already trying to forget. At 21:17, a camera captures her. Grainy footage, static lines crawling across the frame. A bus pulls away, and there she is, Emily Carter, stepping onto the pavement, adjusting her coat, glancing briefly over her shoulder. A pause. Not long, less than a second, but enough. Enough to feel wrong. Then she turns and walks. Out of frame. That is the last confirmed moment she is seen alive. No one notices. No one follows. The street continues breathing like nothing happened. Cars pass. Lights flicker. A man laughs somewhere off camera. Life continues, uninterrupted, indifferent. By 22:03, her phone stops responding. By midnight, her sister calls again, and again, and again. By morning, the word begins to circulate quietly, missing. By the afternoon, it hardens into something heavier. Something colder. A disappearance with no edges.
Non oís. No explanación.
Emily Carter is 28 years old, a junior editor at a mid-sized publishing firm. Reliable, predictable, the kind of woman who replies to emails within minutes and never misses deadlines. Her colleagues describe her in simple words: polite, quiet, focused. She doesn't drink much, doesn't party, doesn't take risks. She walks home the same route every night. She lives alone in a modest flat less than 3 minutes from where she was last seen. 3 minutes. That distance becomes everything. Because she never arrives. When officers enter her apartment later that day, nothing is disturbed. No signs of struggle. No forced entry. No broken locks. Her bed is made. Her kitchen clean. A mug sits on the counter, untouched since the morning. Her laptop remains open on a draft document. Half a sentence. Unfinished. Like something interrupted mid-thought. Her keys are missing. Her bag is gone. But everything else, her life, her habits, her routine, remains frozen in place. As if she stepped out for a moment and never returned. The Metropolitan Police open a missing persons case within hours. Standard procedure. Officers canvass the neighborhood, knock on doors, check nearby businesses, pull surveillance footage from every reachable angle. At first, it feels routine, predictable, containable, until it isn't. Because the footage doesn't line up. The camera that captures her stepping off the bus doesn't capture her turning the corner toward her building. The next camera, positioned just meters away, never sees her at all. There is a gap. A blind spot. 23 seconds of unaccounted time. 23 seconds where Emily Carter simply vanishes. Detectives walk the route themselves.
Same time.
Same conditions. They count every step. From the bus stop to the corner, 8 seconds. From the corner to her building, 11 seconds.
Total, 19.
Not 23. For seconds missing. For seconds that shouldn't exist. For seconds that change everything. Because something happens in that space. Something fast. Something precise. Something invisible to everyone except the absence it leaves behind. The case shifts. No longer a routine disappearance. Now it's something else. Something deliberate. Something controlled. Posters begin appearing across North London. Emily's face, calm, neutral, almost forgettable, stares out from lampposts and bus stops. Missing. Have you seen this woman?
Calls come in.
Dozens at first, then hundreds. Sightings flood the lines. Supermarkets, train stations, busy intersections. Every lead is followed. Every tip investigated. Every single one collapses.
False.
Mistaken.
Wrong.
Days pass. Then a week. Then 2. No ransom demand. No messages. No financial activity. No trace of movement. Just silence. Heavy, expanding, suffocating silence. The media picks it up. Headlines sharpen. Woman vanishes steps from home. London disappearance shocks community. How does someone disappear in plain sight? The question echoes everywhere. Because this is London. A city covered in cameras. A city where movement is tracked, recorded, archived. And yet she's gone. Erased between frames. Detective Inspector Alan Reeves takes over in week 3. 30 years in the force. Methodical, patient, known for one thing: he doesn't let go. He studies the case without speaking at first. Footage. Statements. Timelines. He watches the same clip over and over again. 21:17. Emily steps off the bus.
Pause. Glance.
Walk.
Gone.
Something in that pause bothers him. It's too subtle to explain. Too small to prove. But it feels like awareness. Like she's sensed something. Or someone.
Reeves rewinds.
Plays it again. And again. Then slows it down. Frame by frame. He's not looking at her anymore. He's looking behind her. At reflections. At shadows. At movement that shouldn't be there. And that's when he sees it. For less than a second. In the reflection of a parked car's window. A shape. Faint, distorted. Standing where no one should be. Not moving. Not passing by. Just there. Watching. Reeves isolates the frame. Enhances it. Pushes the software beyond what it was designed to do.
Pixels stretch, blur.
Reform. The image resists clarity. But something remains. A silhouette. Human.
Still.
Positioned behind the row of parked vehicles, partially hidden from direct view. Someone who knew exactly where the cameras couldn't see. Someone who understood the blind spot. The discovery changes the tone of the investigation. Now there is presence. Now there is intent. They return to the location. A narrow strip of pavement bordered by parked cars on one side and a construction site on the other. Temporary fencing. Loose panels. Poor lighting. A perfect place to disappear. Officers search every inch. They examine the ground, the fencing, the gaps between panels. Nothing. No blood.
No fibers.
No dropped belongings. No signs of struggle. It's too clean. Unnaturally clean. As if whatever happened without resistance. Or too quickly for resistance to matter. Reeves marks the spot. Stands there in silence.
Counts again.
19 seconds. Still 19. The missing 4 seconds hang in the air like a question no one can answer. Weeks turn into months. The case begins to cool. Leads dry up. The public moves on. New headlines replace old ones. Emily Carter becomes a name people vaguely remember. A story told once, then forgotten. A file begins to gather dust. But Reeves doesn't close it. He can't. Because of the shadow. Because of the 4 seconds. Because something about the entire disappearance feels constructed.
Planned. Precise.
He starts going back further. Before the night she vanished. He reviews reports that seemed irrelevant. Minor complaints. Unrelated sightings. Background noise. And buried among them something small. A report filed 2 weeks before Emily disappeared. A resident describing a man loitering near the construction site. Standing still for long periods. Not using a phone. Not smoking. Not moving. Just watching. The description is vague. But one detail stands out. His posture was strange. One shoulder higher than the other. Head tilted slightly. Reeves freezes. Replays the enhanced reflection. The silhouette. The angle of the shoulders.
The tilt of the head.
It matches.
Perfectly.
What once meant nothing now feels like the first real thread. But it's already too late. The man was never identified. No name. No clear face. No follow-up. The lead fades into the background like everything else. And time continues to move forward. Relentless. Unforgiving. Years pass. The file is archived. The city changes. Buildings rise. Streets evolve. Cameras upgrade. Technology advances. But the gap remains. For seconds. Unexplained. Untouched. A hole in reality where a woman vanished without a trace. Emily Carter becomes something else entirely. Not just missing. Not just a case. But a question. A fracture in logic. A reminder that even in a city of millions, even under constant surveillance, someone can still disappear.
Cleanly. Quietly.
Completely. And somewhere hidden in those 4 missing seconds, the truth is still waiting. Unseen, unheard, and patient. The file doesn't close. It never really did. Even as it's pushed into storage, labeled, indexed, buried beneath newer cases with fresher urgency, something about it resists being forgotten. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet persistence like a splinter under the skin. Detective Inspector Alan Reeves feels it every time he walks past the archive room. That pull. That unfinished wait. Because 4 seconds don't just disappear. 4 seconds are taken. And whoever took them knew exactly what they were doing. By early autumn, the investigation has officially slowed. Resources are redirected. Officers reassigned. The case status shifts quietly, almost politely, toward inactive. Not closed. Just waiting. But Reeves doesn't wait. He starts rebuilding the timeline from the ground up, stripping away assumptions, ignoring previous conclusions. He treats it like a fresh crime scene. He returns to the bus route. Same line, same stops,
Same time.
He rides it alone one evening, sitting where Emily would have sat, watching what she would have seen. Streetlights blur past. Reflections smear across the glass. Faces appear, disappear. Routine. Safe. Predictable. Until you start looking closer. At 21:17, he steps off at the same stop. The air feels colder than it should. Or maybe that's just him. He walks her path.
Counts again.
8 seconds to the corner. He slows down.
9. 10.
Still reaches it too early. The numbers don't change. They never do. He stops at the blind spot. Stands exactly where she would have stood. Listens. There's traffic in the distance. A faint hum of the city. But here, between the parked cars and the construction fencing, sound feels muted.
Contained.
Like the space absorbs it. He turns toward the fencing. Metal panels. Temporary. Slight gaps where they don't quite align. Enough space to see fragments inside. Piles of materials, unfinished groundwork, shadows layered on shadows. During the day, it looks harmless. At night, it becomes something else. A void. A place where movement can exist without being seen. Reeves presses his hand against the metal.
Cold. Still.
He imagines it opening. Just enough. Just long enough. 4 seconds. That's all it would take. The next morning, he orders a deeper search of the construction site. Not a surface sweep. A full excavation. It draws attention. Questions from superiors. Pushback. Months have passed. Weather would have erased anything. There's no evidence she was even there. Reeves doesn't argue. He just repeats one thing. For seconds. Reluctantly, approval is given. The site is partially shut down. Workers are interviewed again. Most remember nothing. Some barely remember Emily's case at all. Time has done its work. Blurred details. Softened urgency. But one worker, older, quiet, mentions something unusual. A section of fencing that had been loose around that time. Not broken. Not damaged. Just unsecured. Easily moved. Easily replaced. No one reported it. Because nothing seemed missing. No one noticed anything wrong. Because nothing looked wrong. The search begins. Layer by layer. Soil is turned. Debris removed. Every inch documented. Days pass. Nothing. Then, on the 4th day, something small surfaces. Not dramatic. Not obvious. Just a fragment. Fabric.
Dark.
Weathered. Caught beneath a section of compacted dirt near the fence line. Forensics takes over. Careful.
Precise.
Slow. The fragment is bagged. Catalogued. Sent for analysis. Reeves watches it disappear into evidence processing with a quiet intensity that unsettles the younger officers. Because he already knows. Or, at least he feels like he knows. Days later, the report comes back. The fabric matches the material of the coat Emily was last seen wearing. Not identical, but consistent. Same composition. Same manufacturing pattern. It's not definitive, but it's enough. Enough to pull the case back into motion. Enough to turn a theory into direction. Now there's confirmation. She was there. Inside the blind spot. Inside those missing 4 seconds. The investigation sharpens again. Focus narrows. Attention returns. And with it, pressure. Reeves reopens every overlooked lead connected to the area. The loitering man. The construction workers. Delivery drivers. Night shift employees. Anyone who passed through that space in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. Patterns begin to form. Subtle at first. Then clearer. There are multiple reports, not identical but similar, of someone being present near the site after dark. Always alone. Always still. Always watching. No one thought much of it. Because cities are full of watchers. People waiting. People lingering. People existing on the edges. But now, in hindsight, it feels different. Intentional. Focused. Predatory. Reeves builds a profile without a name.
Male.
Patient. Comfortable with routine. Familiar with the environment. Knows camera coverage. Understands timing. Not impulsive. Not chaotic. Controlled. Very controlled. And that control is what terrifies him. Because controlled people don't make mistakes. They prepare. They rehearse. They wait. Which means Emily wasn't random. She was chosen. Not for who she was, but for how she moved. Predictable route. Predictable time. Predictable isolation.
She fit something.
A pattern only one person understood. The question shifts. Not just who took her, but how long had he been watching? Reeves returns to the enhanced footage. This time, not looking at the figure itself, but at its stillness. Frame by frame. There's no shift in weight.
No adjustment. No hesitation.
The figure is already in position before Emily enters the frame. Already waiting. Already ready. That means timing wasn't coincidence. It was planned. Which means he knew when she would arrive. Or, at least he was certain enough to wait. That realization tightens everything. Because it suggests surveillance. Prior observation. Possibly days.
Possibly weeks.
Reeves expands the timeline further back. And that's when another detail surfaces. Small. Almost irrelevant. Emily had changed her routine once. 2 weeks before she disappeared. Left work earlier than usual. Took a different train. Arrived home at a different time. Nothing happened. No incident. No report.
But
that was the same week the loitering man was first seen. As if he was adjusting. Learning.
adapting.
Waiting for her to return to pattern. And when she did, he was ready. The investigation accelerates. Public attention reignites. Media headlines return, sharper now. New evidence in London cold case. Missing woman may have been targeted. Police search construction site for answers. The city feels it again. That unease. That realization that something calculated moved through its streets unnoticed. Reeves doesn't speak to the press. He stays inside the case. Inside the details. Because something else is beginning to surface. Something even quieter than the fabric. Financial records. Routine checks reveal nothing unusual at first. Emily's accounts remain untouched after her disappearance.
No withdrawals.
No activity. But before she vanished, there are small, repeated transactions. Cash withdrawals. Same location.
Same time.
Every Thursday. For 3 weeks. Not large amounts. Not suspicious on their own. But consistent. Too consistent.
Reeves tracks the ATM.
It's located less than a minute from the construction site. He pulls the footage.
Old.
Low quality. But usable. He watches each Thursday. Emily approaches. Withdraws cash.
Leaves.
Nothing unusual. Until the 3rd week. The final withdrawal. She steps away from the machine. And just before she exits the frame, she pauses. Turns slightly. Not toward the camera. Toward something off-screen. Toward someone. Her posture shifts. Subtle. But undeniable. Recognition. Not fear. Not alarm. Something else.
Something that suggests.
She had seen him before. And in that moment she knew he was there. Reeves freezes the frame. Stares at it. Because this changes everything. If she recognized him, then he wasn't just a shadow in the dark. He had entered her world. Even briefly. Even silently. He existed close enough to be noticed. Close enough to be remembered. But somehow, not close enough to be identified. The line between stranger and known presence blurs. And that's where the case becomes dangerous. Because now it's not just about a hidden figure. It's about proximity. About infiltration. About someone who moved just outside awareness. Until the moment he didn't. And by then, it was already too late. The 4 seconds grow heavier. No longer empty. No longer abstract. Now they are filled with intent. With movement. With contact. Somewhere inside that gap, Emily Carter stopped being alone. And someone else stepped into her story.
Quietly. Precisely. Permanently.
And for the first time since the night she vanished. The darkness around those missing seconds begins to take shape. Not fully. Not clearly. But enough to feel something emerging. Something patient. Something calculated. Something that has been waiting far longer than anyone realized.
And now.
It's starting to move. The moment she turns at the ATM doesn't leave him. It lingers. Replays. Rebuilds itself in Reeves's mind with every viewing, every pause, every microscopic adjustment of contrast and light. It's not fear in her body language. Not panic.
No flinch. No recoil.
Recognition. That's what makes it worse. Because recognition means familiarity. And familiarity means proximity. Somewhere, somehow, Emily Carter had already seen him. Not once. More than once. Enough to register. Not enough to remember. That thin line becomes the center of everything. Reese orders a full extraction of every camera within a 1-kilometer radius of the ATM for the 3 Thursdays leading up to her disappearance. Not just obvious angles. Everything.
Side streets.
Shop fronts. Traffic cams. Private security feeds. Hundreds of hours. Thousands of frames. A digital ocean of movement. Most of it meaningless. People walking. Cars stopping. Lights shifting. Routine. Until you stop looking for faces. And start looking for presence. A pattern begins to surface slowly, almost reluctantly. A man. Not always clear. Not always centered. But there. In the background. Across multiple days. Different cameras. Same posture. Left shoulder slightly raised. Head tilted. Still. Always still. He appears near the ATM once. Then near the construction site. Then farther back, on a parallel street, partially obscured by a bus shelter. Never approaching. Never interacting. Just existing within her orbit. Watching. Learning. Waiting. Reeves isolates the clips. Lines them up. Builds a timeline of appearances. The intervals tighten as the days progress. At first, the man is distant. Peripheral. Almost accidental. Then gradually closer. More frequent. More aligned with Emily's movements. By the final Thursday, he's less than 10 meters away. Not hidden. Not disguised. Just unnoticed. Because no one is looking for someone who isn't doing anything. That's the strategy. Stillness. Silence. Absence of action. It makes him invisible. Reeves leans back in his chair, staring at the compiled sequence. This isn't random. This is escalation. Controlled. Measured. Deliberate. And then the realization lands. Hard. Cold. If he was watching her before, then the night she disappeared wasn't the beginning. It was the execution. They pushed the footage through enhancement again. Frame by frame. Sharpening edges. Pulling definition from distortion. The face remains elusive. Angles too poor. Light too weak. But other details emerge. Clothing. Dark jacket. Standard. Forgettable. But consistent. Shoes. Heavy. Work grade. Slight wear pattern on the outer edge of the right sole. Subtle. But repeatable. Enough to suggest habit. Enough to suggest identity. Reeves cross-references employment records again. Construction workers. Contractors. Maintenance crews. Anyone tied to the site. The list narrows. Slowly. Then faster. Because one name keeps surfacing in overlapping data points. Not loudly. Not obviously. But persistently. A man who worked short-term contracts across multiple sites. Including the one near Emily's route. Left before the investigation began. No disciplinary issues. No criminal record.
No flags.
Just gaps. In employment. In residence. In documentation. Too clean. Suspiciously clean. His name is Daniel Hargrove. 41 years old. Lives alone. Or, at least officially. Reeves studies his file. There's nothing overtly wrong.
No arrests. No complaints.
No history of violence. But there's something else. A pattern of proximity. Previous job locations align with 2 other unsolved disappearances. Different boroughs. Different years. Different victims. But similar circumstances. Women. Alone. Routine routes. Vanished without trace. At the time, the cases were never connected. Too little evidence. Too many variables.
But now,
With Hargrove in the frame, the possibility becomes something heavier. Something dangerous. Reeves doesn't jump. He never jumps. He builds.
piece by piece,
They pull financial records.
sparse,
Minimal transactions. Mostly cash. They pull phone data. Limited usage.
no consistent contacts,
A life designed to leave as little digital trace as possible. Controlled. Again controlled. Surveillance begins. Quiet. Unannounced. Hargrove is watched. His movements tracked. His routines mapped. He leaves his flat early. Returns late. Walks often. No car registered in his name. But occasionally, he disappears for hours without clear destination. No obvious pattern. No clear purpose. Until one night something shifts. He walks. Longer than usual. Farther than usual. Toward an industrial area on the edge of the city. Old warehouses. Limited traffic. Sparse lighting. The kind of place where sound doesn't travel far. Where presence doesn't attract attention. Officers follow at a distance. Careful. Measured. Hargrove doesn't look back. Doesn't check. Doesn't hesitate. He knows how to move without appearing cautious. Which makes him even more dangerous. He reaches a building. Abandoned. Or at least it appears that way. Boarded windows. Rusting doors. No visible activity.
he stops, stands there. Still,
Exactly like the footage. Exactly like the reflection. Exactly like the man who waited in the dark. Minutes pass. Then he steps inside. Reeves gets the call. Authorization is requested. Surveillance only. No entry. Not yet. They need more. Always more. Because one wrong move, and everything disappears again. Just like Emily did. They hold position.
watch, wait,
Hargrove remains inside for 43 minutes. No movement visible.
no lights,
No sound. Then he exits.
calm,
Unchanged. Walks away. Returns home. As if nothing happened. But something has. Because now there's a location.
a space,
A possibility. The next day, a warrant is requested. Carefully constructed. Built on accumulation. On patterns. On presence. Not enough for arrest. But enough for entry. Barely. It's approved. Just enough. Just in time. The team moves at dawn. Quiet. Controlled.
no lights, no sirens,
They breach the building. Inside darkness. Thick. Heavy. Air that hasn't moved properly in years. Dust hangs in the beam of every flashlight. The structure is mostly empty. Concrete floors. Metal supports. Echoes that linger too long. But something feels wrong. Not abandoned. Not entirely. There are signs. Subtle. Recent.
Footprints. Disturbances in dust. A door at the back. Reinforced. Out of place. They approach. Careful. Weapons drawn. The door is unlocked. That's the first mistake. Or maybe it's intentional. They open it, and everything changes. The room beyond is not empty. It's prepared. Deliberately. Carefully.
Plastic sheeting along sections of the wall. Not covering everything. Just enough.
A chair.
Bolted. Not new. Not old.
Used.
A single overhead light.
Off.
But functional. And on the floor.
Marks.
Scratches. Subtle. Repeated. Patterns that don't belong in an abandoned building. The air feels heavier here. Thicker. As if something stayed too long. As if something happened. More than once. Reeves steps inside slowly. Every instinct sharp. Every sense alert. Because this isn't just a place. It's a method. A system. A controlled environment. And that means one thing. Emily Carter didn't vanish into nothing. She was taken somewhere. Somewhere like this. The realization hits like a weight pressing down from all sides. Because if this is connected, if this is real, then this wasn't his first time. And it won't be his last. Unless they stop him.
Now.
But something is missing. No personal items. No clear evidence tying the space directly to Emily.
No definitive proof.
Just implication. Strong.
Terrifying.
But not enough. Not yet. Reeves knows the line. He's standing right on it. One step forward. And they risk losing everything. One step back. And they risk letting it continue. He looks around the room one more time. At the chair. At the floor. At the silence. And then he sees it. Barely visible. Near the edge of the wall. A faint mark. Not a stain. Not quite. Something scratched. Intentional. Letters. Partial. Interrupted. He kneels. Wipes away dust carefully. The shape becomes clearer. Not a full word. Not complete. But enough to recognize. An initial.
E.
Just one letter. But it lands like an explosion in the mind. Because Emily Carter never made it home. But maybe, just maybe, she made it here. And for the first time since the case began. The darkness isn't empty anymore. It's occupied. Filled with fragments of something that refuses to stay buried. Something that is starting to surface.
Piece by piece.
Letter by letter. Until the truth has nowhere left to hide. The letter shouldn't be there. Not in a place like this. Not on a wall that was meant to erase everything. Reese stares at it longer than necessary. Just one character. Scratched. Incomplete. Almost swallowed by dust and time.
E.
It could mean anything. It could mean nothing. But in this room, this controlled, calculated space, nothing is accidental. For a moment, no one speaks. The air presses in, thick and unmoving, as if the room itself is holding its breath. Officers shift slightly, careful not to disturb anything, careful not to break the fragile line between suspicion and proof. Reeves stands slowly. His voice, when it comes, is quiet. Seal it. Forensics floods in. Every surface is photographed, measured, mapped. The plastic sheeting is lifted inch by inch. Fibers collected. Dust sampled. The chair examined down to the bolts. Every mark becomes a question. Every question becomes pressure. Outside, the morning is beginning to wake. Traffic hums. People move. The city continues, unaware that something buried in its forgotten edges has just shifted. Because now there is a room.
Now there is a system.
Now there is intent made physical. And that changes everything. Daniel Hargrove doesn't run. That's the first thing that unsettles Reeves. When officers bring him in later that afternoon, he doesn't resist.
Doesn't argue. Doesn't even ask why.
He just watches. Same posture. Left shoulder slightly raised. Head tilted.
Still.
Always still. They place him in interview room 3. Neutral space. Gray walls. 1 table. 2 chairs.
No distractions.
A camera records everything. Reeves waits before entering. He studies the man through the observation glass. 41. Average build. No distinguishing features. The kind of face that dissolves in memory the moment you look away. Except for the eyes.
Calm.
Not defensive. Not afraid. Just aware. As if he's been expecting this. Reeves steps inside. Closes the door behind him.
Sits.
Silence stretches. Neither man speaks. Seconds pass. Then a minute. Then more. Hargrove doesn't fidget. Doesn't shift. Doesn't break eye contact. He simply exists in the space. Controlled. Reeves finally places a photograph on the table. The room.
The chair.
The plastic-lined walls.
No commentary.
Just the image. Hargrove glances at it. Just once. Then back up. Nothing changes. No reaction.
No denial. No curiosity.
Just stillness. Reeves slides another image forward. The scratched letter.
E.
This time, something happens. Not much. But enough. A flicker.
Gone almost instantly.
But Reeves sees it. He leans forward slightly. You've been there. Not a question. A statement. Hargrove says nothing. Reeves lets the silence grow again. Because silence is pressure. And pressure reveals fractures. You built that space, Reeves continues. You used it. Still nothing. You watched her. A pause. Then, finally, Hargrove speaks. Voice low, even. You don't know that. It's the first break. Small. But real. Reeves doesn't push too hard. Not yet. He shifts direction. Emily Carter. The name hangs in the air. Hargrove's eyes don't move. But something tightens. Internal. Controlled. But there. Reeves notices. Catalogs it. You saw her before that night, Reeves says. At the ATM. On the street. You were there. Hargrove exhales slowly. Almost amused. You see a lot of people in a city like this. Deflection. Expected. Reeves nods. True. He slides another set of images across the table. Enhanced stills. The silhouette. The posture. The shoulder. The tilt. Repeated across different days. Different angles. Same presence. You're consistent, Reeves says quietly. That's what gave you away. Hargrove studies the images longer this time. Not surprised. Not alarmed. Just evaluating. Then he leans back slightly. A faint smile. You're guessing. Reeves doesn't respond. Because this isn't about winning an argument. It's about dismantling control.
Piece by piece.
You waited, Reeves continues. You learned her routine. You knew the blind spot. Silence. You were there before she arrived. A longer pause. You were ready. Hargrove's fingers tap once against the table. A small movement. Out of rhythm with his stillness. Reeves sees it. There's the fracture. Tiny. But spreading. You planned it, Reeves says. That's the difference. This wasn't random. Hargrove's gaze sharpens. Just slightly. Reeves presses. You needed control. And that lands. Because control is the center. The axis everything rotates around. Hargrove's voice returns softer now. Everyone needs control. Not denial. Not rejection. A statement. And statements are openings. Reeves leans forward. Not like that. Silence again. But it's different now. Not empty. Tense. Charged. Because something has shifted. The balance is no longer neutral. Reeves slides the final image across the table. The construction site. The blind spot. The exact place where the cameras fail. For seconds, Reeves says. Hargrove looks at it. Really looks this time. And for the first time since the interview began. He blinks. Slow. Measured. But real. Reeves doesn't miss it. You used the gap, he continues. You knew exactly how long you had. No response. But the silence is no longer controlled. It's contained. Barely. You opened the fence, Reeves says. Pulled her through. Closed it behind you. Hargrove's jaw tightens. Just slightly. Reeves leans in further. You rehearsed it. That's the word. Rehearsed. It hits differently. Because it implies repetition. Preparation. Practice. And that means this wasn't the first time. Hargrove's eyes flicker.
There. Gone.
But enough. Reeves presses the advantage. How many times? He asks quietly. No answer. But the silence fractures again. Deeper now. Reeves changes angle. Not aggressive. Not confrontational. Almost conversational. You weren't angry, he says. That's the thing. This wasn't about rage. Hargrove watches him. Careful. Evaluating. Reeves continues. It was about precision. A longer pause. It was about doing it right. And that's when it happens. The smallest shift. A breath held too long. Released too slowly.
Pride.
Buried. But present. Reeves sees it clearly. And he knows. That's the key. Not fear. Not guilt. Recognition. Of skill. Of execution. Of control perfected. You made it clean, Reeves says.
No noise. No trace. No mistake.
Hargrove's lips press together. Almost satisfied. For a fraction of a second. Then gone. But too late. Reeves has it. He sits back. Lets the silence stretch again. But now the room feels different. Because control has shifted.
Subtly.
But irreversibly. You went back, Reeves says after a moment. Hargrove doesn't react. But he's listening. Reeves knows he is. You return to the site. After.
A beat.
More than once. Now the reaction comes. Not visible.
But felt.
Tension tightening the space. Reeves continues. You couldn't leave it alone. Stillness again. But it's not the same stillness. This one is strained.
Pressed.
You needed to see it, Reeves says, to make sure it stayed perfect. Hargrove finally speaks. Quiet. Measured. You don't understand anything. But the tone is different now. Less certain. Less controlled. Reeves doesn't argue. He just nods slightly. You're right, he says. Not everything. A pause. But enough. He gestures toward the images. The room. The letter. The footage. The pattern. Silence. Then Reeves says it.
Clear.
Unavoidable. She made it there. Hargrove's eyes snap, just for a fraction of a second. Instinct. Reflex. Truth trying to stay hidden. But failing. Reeves leans in, voice dropping lower. She was alive when you brought her in. No response. But the silence screams. Reeves doesn't stop. You didn't plan for the letter.
That lands.
Harder than anything else. Because it introduces something he didn't control. Something that slipped through. Something human. You missed it, Reeves says quietly. Hargrove's jaw tightens again. More visibly this time. A crack. Small. But real. Reeves presses. You missed one detail. Silence. You always do. That's the push. The challenge. The threat to control. Hargrove's eyes darken. For the first time, there's something else in them. Not calm. Not stillness. Something sharper. Something unstable. And in that moment, Reeves knows. He's close. Closer than anyone has been in years. Because control is slipping. Just enough. Just slowly enough. And once it breaks, everything comes with it. The room holds that tension like a wire pulled too tight. One more push. One more fracture. And the truth, buried for years inside silence and precision, is about to surface. Not all at once. Not cleanly. But inevitably. Because even the most controlled system can't account for everything. Not forever. And somewhere inside Daniel Hargrove, something is already starting to give. He just doesn't know it yet. The silence breaks unevenly. Not with a confession. Not with words spilling out in panic. Just a shift.
Small. Subtle.
But irreversible. Daniel Hargrove doesn't look away, but something in his stillness is gone. The precision is no longer perfect. The balance no longer exact. A system that held for years now carrying strain. Reeves doesn't rush it. He knows better. Because pressure applied too fast shatters the wrong parts. He needs it to crack where it matters. You miss something, Reeves repeats quietly. Hargrove exhales.
Long.
Measured. But not controlled anymore. Not completely. You think you've built something, Hargrove says, voice low, almost distant. A story. A structure. It feels complete to you. Reeves doesn't interrupt. But it isn't, Hargrove continues. You're filling gaps. Guessing. Reeves nods slightly. Yes, he says. I am, A pause. But I'm guessing in the right direction.
That lands.
Because it's not denial. It's confidence. And confidence threatens control. Hargrove's fingers move again. A slight flex. Then still. Reeves leans back, giving him space. Letting him speak. Because now he wants to. They always think it's chaos, Hargrove murmurs. When something disappears, they imagine violence.
Panic.
Noise. His eyes drift, not away, but inward. But it doesn't have to be like that. There it is.
The shift.
From defense to explanation. Reeves remains silent. You can remove something cleanly, Hargrove says. Without disturbance. Without disruption. If you understand timing. Reeves watches him carefully. You study it, Hargrove continues. Patterns.
Gaps.
Behavior.
People repeat themselves.
Over and over. It becomes predictable. His voice is steady again. But different. Less guarded. More invested. Reeves lets it continue. You wait, Hargrove says. You don't act until everything aligns. When it does, it's simple.
Simple.
The word hangs in the air like something rotten. Reeves leans forward slightly. And Emily Carter aligned, he says. Hargrove's eyes flicker. Barely. But it's there. Reeves presses gently. She fit your pattern. No response. But the silence accepts it. Reeves continues. You followed her.
A beat.
You learned her. Another beat. And when the timing was right, he doesn't finish the sentence. He doesn't need to. Because the ending is already in the room. Hargrove's gaze sharpens again. You're still guessing, he says. But the certainty is thinner now. Reeves slides the photograph of the scratched letter forward again. You didn't account for her, Reeves says. Hargrove doesn't look at the image. Not this time. That's the tell. You accounted for everything else, Reeves continues. The cameras, the timing, the entry point, the exit. Silence. But not her. A longer pause. She reacted. Still nothing. Reeves leans closer. She fought. That lands harder. Hargrove's jaw tightens.
There.
Real. Visible. Reeves doesn't let it go. She left a mark, he says quietly. Something you didn't control. Hargrove finally looks at the letter. Just for a second. Then away. Too fast. Reeves sees it. You didn't see it, Reeves continues. Not at the time. Silence. You thought it was perfect. The word again.
Perfect.
It cuts deeper now. Because perfection is what Hargrove built everything around. And now it's compromised. Reeves lets the weight of that settle. Then he changes direction. You went back, he says. Hargrove's eyes return. Focused. Alert. Reeves nods slowly. After, he continues. More than once. A pause. You couldn't leave it unfinished. Hargrove's breathing shifts. Subtle. But real. Reeves presses. You needed to check. Silence. To make sure nothing broke. A longer silence. And that's when you saw it. Hargrove doesn't respond. But the absence of denial is louder than words. Reeves leans in. You saw the letter. Nothing. But by then it was too late. The room tightens. Pressure building again. You couldn't erase it, Reeves says. not without risking exposure. Hargrove's fingers curl slightly against the table. Reeves watches. You left it, he says.
A beat.
And it stayed. Silence. Heavy. Expanding. Then, Hargrove speaks again. Quieter now. Almost reflective. People don't understand how fragile things are, he says. One small deviation, and everything changes. Reeves doesn't move. Doesn't speak. He lets Hargrove continue. You think control is absolute, Hargrove says. That if you plan enough, account for enough, nothing slips. His eyes drift again. Not unfocused, but distant. But there's always something, he adds. Something you don't see. Reeves watches closely. Because now it's not about the investigation. It's about the admission hiding inside philosophy. You didn't see her, Reeves says quietly. Hargrove's eyes snap back.
Sharp.
Reeves holds his gaze. You saw the pattern, he continues. The timing, the movement. A pause. But not her. Silence. Reeves leans closer. You underestimated her. That's the fracture.
Deep.
Immediate. Hargrove's composure slips. Just enough. A flash of something raw. Anger. Not loud. Not explosive. But real. Reeves presses into it. She wasn't part of your system, he says. She broke it. Hargrove's voice comes back, tighter now. You don't know what happened. Reeves doesn't hesitate. She resisted. Silence. You didn't expect that. A longer silence. Reeves lowers his voice. And that's where it went wrong. The room holds still. Everything suspended. Hargrove's breathing is no longer perfectly measured. There's variation now. Disruption. Reeves watches every detail. You had 4 seconds, he says. You used them. A pause. But inside that room, he lets it hang. Because what happened inside doesn't need to be described. Not yet. Not fully. The implication is enough. Hargrove closes his eyes briefly. Just once. Then opens them. And something is different. Not broken.
But changed.
As if the structure is no longer holding the same way. Reeves sees it. And he knows. This is the edge. The moment where control transitions into collapse. Slow. Gradual. But unstoppable. You can still finish it, Reeves says quietly. Hargrove frowns slightly. Not understanding. Reeves continues. You can complete the story. A pause. Or you can leave it like this. Silence. Broken. That word lingers. Heavy. Unavoidable. Hargrove's gaze drops for the first time. Not far. Just to the table. But it's enough. Enough to break the line. Enough to show something internal is shifting. Reeves doesn't push further. Not yet. Because this isn't about forcing a confession. It's about letting the system fail on its own.
Piece by piece.
Crack by crack. Until there's nothing left to hold it together. The room falls quiet again. But it's not the same silence as before. This one isn't controlled. It's unstable. Uncertain. Fragile. And somewhere inside that fragile space, the truth is beginning to move.
Slowly. Carefully.
But undeniably. Because once control is compromised, It doesn't come back. Not fully. Not ever. And Daniel Hargrove knows it. Even if he hasn't said it yet. Even if he never says it at all. The system he built, precise, silent, perfect, is no longer intact. And the cracks are only getting wider. With every second that passes. With every word that isn't spoken. With every detail he failed to control. The silence stretches again.
But now.
It feels like something is about to break. And when it does, it won't be clean. It won't be controlled. And it won't be silent anymore. The silence doesn't break all at once. It fractures. Hairline cracks spreading beneath the surface, invisible at first, then widening with every breath Daniel Hargrove fails to control. The system is still there, structured, deliberate, but it's no longer seamless. Something inside it is shifting, grinding against itself. Reese doesn't interrupt. He watches. Because this is the moment where control doesn't disappear, it erodes.
Slowly.
Inevitably. Hargrove's eyes remain fixed on the table now. Not on the images. Not on Reese. Just the surface. As if something beneath it is more real than anything in the room. You said she fought, Hargrove murmurs. Not a question. A correction. Reese doesn't respond immediately. He lets the statement exist. Then, quietly, yes. A pause. Hargrove's fingers press flat against the table, spreading slightly, as if grounding himself. It wasn't supposed to happen like that, he says. There it is. Not a confession. Not fully. But the first deviation from denial. Reese leans forward just enough. How is it supposed to happen? Hargrove doesn't answer right away. His breathing steadies again, but differently now. Not controlled through discipline. Controlled through necessity. Through reconstruction. You prepare for variables, he says finally. You account for movement, timing, resistance in theory. A faint, almost imperceptible shake of his head. But theory isn't exact. Reese says nothing. Because now Hargrove is walking himself toward it. She saw me earlier, Hargrove continues. At the machine. The ATM. The moment of recognition. Reese watches him carefully. You noticed, Reese says quietly. Hargrove's jaw tightens. She noticed, he corrects. A shift in language. Subtle. Important. Reese nods once. And that changed things. Silence. Then. Yes. The word lands heavier than any denial ever could. The room feels smaller.
Tighter.
As if the air itself is closing in around the truth. You should have stopped, Reese says. Not accusatory. Not emotional. Just factual. Hargrove lets out a short breath. That's not how it works. Reese doesn't argue. Then explain it, he says. Hargrove lifts his gaze slightly, not fully meeting Reese's eyes, but no longer fixed downward. There's a point, he says slowly, where stopping creates more risk than continuing. Reese studies him. That point is when you're seen.
A beat.
Hargrove doesn't respond. But he doesn't need to. Reese continues. You couldn't walk away. Silence. You had already committed. Another silence. And that's when control started to fail. Hargrove's lips pressed together. A reaction. Small. But real. Reese leans closer. You miscalculated. The word lands like a blade. Hargrove's head lifts fully now. Eyes sharp. Focused. That's not what happened. The first pushback with force. Reese doesn't retreat. Then tell me what did. A long pause. Long enough to feel deliberate. Long enough to suggest choice. And then, Hargrove exhales. Slow. Heavy. She wasn't afraid at first, he says. The words come carefully. Measured. But no longer defensive. Reeves stays still. Doesn't interrupt. She hesitated. Hargrove continues. At the corner. You saw that. The footage. That pause. Reeves nods slightly. She felt something, Hargrove says, but she didn't understand it yet. A faint flicker in his expression. Not emotion. Recognition. Of memory. I was already in position, he adds. Reeves lets the silence hold that. Because that's it. The confirmation. He was there. Waiting. Inside the blind spot. She entered the gap. Hargrove continues. Exactly on time.
His voice steadies again.
But it's not control returning. It's narration. Detached. Clinical. She slowed slightly, he says. Less than a second. That's when I moved. Reeves doesn't move. Doesn't speak. Because the room is already carrying too much. It was fast, Hargrove says. It had to be. A pause. She reacted sooner than expected. There it is again. Deviation. The flaw. Reeves leans in just a fraction.
How?
Hargrove's eyes flicker. Then settle. She turned, he says. Not fully. Just enough.
A beat.
Enough to see me. Silence. And that changed everything. The words hang heavy. Unavoidable. Reeves lowers his voice. What did she do? Hargrove's fingers curl slightly. She resisted. The same word Reeves used. But now it carries weight. Reality. She didn't freeze, Hargrove continues. Didn't hesitate. A longer pause. She acted. Reeves feels the shift deepen. Because now it's no longer theory. It's memory. She fought harder than anticipated, Hargrove says. The phrasing.
Cold.
Measured. But underneath it's something strained. Reeves doesn't break the flow. What happened in the room? Hargrove's gaze drops again. Not avoiding. Returning.
To that place.
To that moment. The environment was controlled, he says. Prepared. A pause. But she wasn't. Silence. Reeves lets it breathe. Lets it build. She disrupted the sequence, Hargrove continues. Every step required adjustment. Adjustment. Not panic. Not chaos. Just failure of plan. She created noise, he adds quietly. Reeves' eyes narrow slightly. Noise that could be heard? Hargrove shakes his head.
No. A beat.
Noise in the system. The words feel wrong. Detached. But revealing. She moved unpredictably, he continues. Didn't follow expected behavior. Reeves leans forward. And that's when she marked the wall. Hargrove's eyes close briefly. Just once. Then open. Yes. One word. But it lands like a collapse. Because that's it. The confirmation. The letter. She was there. She was alive. And she left something behind. Reeves doesn't speak for a moment. Because the weight of that truth fills the entire room. Then. You missed it. Hargrove's jaw tightens again. I saw it later. A correction. Defensive, but incomplete. Reeves nods slowly. After. Hargrove doesn't respond, but the silence confirms it. You went back, Reeves says. A pause. Yes. Another word. Another fracture. Reeves presses. To fix it. Hargrove exhales. There was nothing to fix. But the tone betrays him. Because if that were true, he wouldn't have returned. Reeves doesn't argue. You couldn't remove it, he says quietly. Hargrove's eyes flicker. Again. Reeves continues. Because removing it would leave more evidence. Silence. And leaving it, Reeves adds, was the only option. The room tightens again. Because now the system is exposed. Not perfect. Not complete.
Flawed.
Reeves leans back slightly. Gives space. Lets the realization settle. For both of them. You built something precise, Reeves says. Hargrove doesn't respond. But not perfect. A pause. And that's why we're here. Silence. Heavy. Final. Hargrove's gaze drops again. But this time it doesn't come back up. Not immediately. And in that moment, Reeves knows. This isn't over. But it's no longer hidden. The structure is open now.
Exposed.
Every flaw visible. Every deviation accounted for. Every second, those missing 4 seconds, no longer empty. Now they are filled. With movement. With resistance. With a woman who refused to disappear quietly. And a man who thought he could control everything. Until he couldn't. The room sits in that truth. Unmoving. Unforgiving. Because once something is said, even partially, it can't be taken back. It doesn't disappear. It stays. Like the mark on the wall. Like the gap in the footage. Like the memory of a moment that broke the system.
And now,
there's only one thing left. Not how it happened. That's already clear. But where it ends. Because somewhere beyond the words, beyond the fragments, beyond the silence that still lingers, there is an ending. And it hasn't been found yet. Not fully. Not completely. But it's closer now. Closer than it has ever been. Because the truth is no longer hidden. It's emerging.
slowly.
Reluctantly. But inevitably. And once it's fully exposed, there will be no more silence left to protect it. The room holds the words long after they're spoken. They don't fade. They don't soften. They sit there, heavy, immovable, like something finally pulled out of the dark and forced into the light. She marked the wall. It changes the shape of everything. Not just what happened, but how it happened. Because it means Emily Carter didn't disappear quietly. She resisted. She acted. She left something behind. And that means she was thinking. Aware. Present. Alive inside the moment that was supposed to erase her. Reeves doesn't move for several seconds. He lets the silence expand, pressing against the edges of the room, forcing Hargrove to sit inside it. Because now the conversation isn't about theory. It's about consequence. You went back, Reeves says again. Not a question. A return. Hargrove doesn't look up. But his voice comes low and steady. Yes. A pause. How many times? Silence. Reeves doesn't push immediately. He waits. Because numbers matter. Patterns matter. Repetition matters. How many times, he repeats. Hargrove exhales slowly. 3. The number lands hard. 3 returns to the same place. 3 times stepping back into the environment he constructed. 3 times checking, adjusting, confirming. Reeves nods once. You were making sure. Hargrove doesn't respond. But the meaning is clear. You didn't trust it, Reeves continues. Not completely. A faint tightening at the corner of Hargrove's mouth.
There.
The fracture widening. Reeves leans forward. You thought something might have been left behind. Silence. And you were right.
That lands.
Because it removes the illusion. There was no perfection. Only damage control. You saw the letter, Reeves says. Hargrove's eyes close briefly. Then open. Yes. A whisper this time. Not defensive. Not controlled. Just acknowledgement. Reeves presses gently. What else did you see? A longer silence. The kind that suggests choice. Then. Nothing that mattered. Reeves tilts his head slightly. That's not true. Hargrove looks up. Eyes sharper again. Reeves holds his gaze.
You saw more than that, he says.
You just didn't understand it yet. A pause. You still don't. The words shift the tension. Hargrove studies him now. Evaluating. Reassessing. Because control isn't gone. It's adapting. Trying to rebuild. You think there's more, Hargrove says. Reeves doesn't answer directly. I know there is. Silence. And then Reeves places another photograph on the table. Not the room. Not the letter. Something smaller. Easier to miss. A close-up from the floor. Near the base of the wall. A faint disturbance in the dust. A pattern. Subtle. But repeated. Hargrove looks at it. Longer this time. His expression doesn't change immediately. But something behind it does. Reeves sees it. You stepped over it, Reeves says quietly. Every time you went back. No response. You didn't see it. A pause. Or you didn't recognize it. Hargrove's jaw tightens. Reeves leans in. She wasn't done. That lands differently. Not as accusation, but as fact. Hargrove's eyes narrow slightly. Reeves continues. She marked more than the wall. Silence. The room tightens again.
Pressure building.
Reeves taps the photograph lightly. She left a pattern. Hargrove doesn't speak. But he doesn't look away either. She was telling us something, Reeves says.
A beat.
And you missed it. That word again.
Missed.
Failure. Break in control. Hargrove's breathing shifts. Subtle. But real. Reeves presses. You thought the system held. Silence. But it didn't. Another silence. Reeves lowers his voice. She changed it. That's the turning point. Because now the narrative isn't about what Hargrove did. It's about what Emily did. Inside his system. Inside his control. Inside the space designed to erase her. And that's something he can't tolerate. Hargrove leans back slightly. First real movement away from the table. Distance. Defense. You're projecting, he says. But the certainty is thinner now. Reeves doesn't argue. He just slides another image forward. enhanced, adjusted. The same floor pattern, but clearer.
Lines.
Scratches. Intentional. Not random. Arranged. Hargrove stares at it. And this time, there's no hiding it. Recognition.
Late.
Too late. Reeves watches the realization settle. She left direction, he says quietly. A pause. Not just proof. Hargrove's lips part slightly. No words. But the structure inside him shifts again. Because direction means something else. It means the story didn't end in that room. Reeves leans forward. You moved her. Silence. But it's no longer denial. It's resistance. Reeves presses. After.
A beat.
After she marked the wall. Hargrove's eyes flicker. Reeves sees it. You had to, he says. You couldn't leave her there. Silence. But it's breaking. Reeves continues. You changed the plan. Another flicker. Another crack. Reeves lowers his voice further. And that's where it really went wrong. The room feels smaller again.
Closing in.
Because now the focus isn't the abduction. It's what came after. The part Hargrove didn't prepare for. The part he couldn't control. What did you do? Reeves asks quietly. A long pause. Longer than any before. Hargrove's gaze drops again. Back to the table. Back to the space where control used to exist. It wasn't part of the design, he says finally. The words come slower now.
Heavier.
Reeves doesn't interrupt. She forced adaptation. Hargrove continues. Deviation from sequence. Sequence. Always sequence. Reeves nods slightly. And you had to improvise. A pause. Yes. The word is quieter this time. Less certain. Reeves presses. Where did you take her? Silence. The longest yet. Because this is the line. The final barrier. The last piece. Reeves doesn't rush it. He lets the silence stretch until it becomes unbearable. Until it demands resolution. Hargrove inhales. Holds it. Then releases. Slow. Measured. But not controlled. Not anymore.
There are places, he says.
In this city. Reeves waits. Places no one looks.
A beat.
Places that don't exist to anyone who isn't already there. Reeves leans forward. Where? Hargrove's eyes lift again. And for the first time, there's something else in them. Not control. Not calculation. Something closer to fatigue. To inevitability. A river, he says. The word lands cold. Heavy. Immediate. Reeves doesn't move. Which river? A pause. Hargrove studies him. As if measuring something final. Then. The Thames. Silence.
Deep.
Final. Because London breathes around that river. Lives through it. Moves across it. And hides within it. Reeves feels the shift immediately. Because now the search has direction. Real direction. Not theory. Not pattern. Location. You took her to the Thames, Reeves says. Hargrove doesn't respond. But he doesn't need to. Reeves presses one last time. Where? Another pause.
Shorter now.
Because the structure is already collapsing. East, Hargrove says. Industrial access points. Restricted areas. Fragments. But enough. More than enough.
Reeves stands. Slowly.
The chair scrapes lightly against the floor. The sound cuts through the room like a signal. Because this part is over. The silence that follows is different. Not tense. Not uncertain. Resolved. Because something has finally been pulled into the open. Something that stayed hidden for years. Buried beneath control, precision, and absence. Now exposed.
Raw.
Incomplete. But real. Reeves looks at Hargrove one last time. And for a moment, neither man speaks. Because everything that needed to be said already has. Then Reeves turns. Opens the door. And steps out. The investigation moves instantly. Orders given. Teams mobilized. The Thames becomes the center. Search units deploy. Access points locked down. Every location Hargrove could have reached is mapped, analyzed, prioritized. Because time doesn't erase everything. Not completely. Not if you know where to look.
And now.
They do. Because Emily Carter didn't disappear into nothing. She left a trail. Not visible. Not obvious. But real. From a blind spot in a street. To a room designed to erase her. To a river that carries everything away. The path is there now. Connected.
Clear.
And for the first time since the night she vanished. The end of the story is no longer hidden. It's waiting. Somewhere along the dark edge of the Thames. Where the city meets the water. Where silence runs deeper than anywhere else. And where the truth has been buried long enough. The river doesn't speak. It never has. It moves. It carries.
It takes.
And what it takes rarely comes back the same. By the time the first search units reach the eastern stretch of the Thames, the sky is still gray, low clouds pressing down over the water like a lid. The air smells faintly metallic, mixed with damp concrete and something older, harder to name. Industrial access points line the banks, forgotten service routes, rusted gates, narrow descents that lead from the city's edge down to the waterline. Places designed for function, not visibility. Places people don't think about. Places no one watches. Reeves stands at the perimeter as the teams move in.
Divers.
Forensics. Marine units. Everything shifts from theory to action in a matter of minutes. Because now there's direction. Now there's intent. Now there's a place where the story might end. Or finally begin to explain itself. The tide is low. That matters. It exposes sections of the riverbed usually hidden beneath shifting water.
Mud. Debris.
Objects carried and abandoned over time. A landscape that changes with every cycle. Unstable. Unreliable. But sometimes revealing. Search grids are established. Systematic. Measured. Every meter accounted for. Every inch observed.
No assumptions. No shortcuts.
Because whatever is here has been here a long time. And time doesn't preserve truth. It distorts it. The first hour yields nothing. Just fragments of the city's forgotten past. Scrap metal. Broken glass. Discarded objects that no longer belong to anyone. Then the second hour passes. Still nothing. The teams continue. Slow.
Precise.
Unforgiving in their attention. Reeves watches the water. The way it shifts. The way it hides. because somewhere beneath it there is an answer. Or at least what's left of one. A diver signals.
Sharp.
Immediate. Everything stops. Focus tightens. The team converges. Careful. Controlled. The diver surfaces partially, guiding something upward. Not large. Not obvious. But deliberate. A bag.
Dark.
Weathered. Caught between debris and sediment, partially buried by time and tide. It's brought to the surface slowly. Handled like something fragile. Something that might disappear again if treated wrong. Reese steps closer. Doesn't touch. Just watches. Because instinct already knows. This is it. Or part of it. Forensics takes over immediately. The bag is sealed.
Logged.
Transported. No assumptions spoken out loud. But the silence says enough. The search continues. Because one object is never the whole story. Not in a case like this. Not after years. Another hour passes. Then another signal. This time deeper. More difficult. The current is stronger further out. Visibility worse. But something is there. The diver struggles slightly as they surface.
Wait.
Resistance. Then it emerges. Partially. Obscured. Something wrapped.
Contained.
The shape isn't clear. Not immediately. But the room, the interrogation, the confession, the fragments, echo in Reeves's mind all at once. She didn't disappear. She was moved. He watches as the object is secured. Lifted. Handled with care. Because now there's no uncertainty left. Only confirmation waiting to be seen. The operation expands. More units. More coverage. Because the river doesn't hold things in one place. It shifts them.
Spreads them.
Breaks them apart. And if something was placed here, there may be more. By midday, the first results come in. The bag is opened under controlled conditions. Inside. Personal items. Water damaged. Time worn. But intact enough. A wallet. Identification. Emily Carter. The name lands like impact. Heavy. Final. Not theory anymore. Not assumption. Reality. She was here. She is here. The second recovery is processed next. More careful. More deliberate. Because this is the part no one rushes. No one speaks through. The wrapping is removed slowly. Layer by layer. Time stretches. Breath holds. And then, confirmation. Unavoidable. Irreversible. The case shifts again. From disappearance to homicide. Officially. Completely. Reese stands outside when the word reaches him. He doesn't react outwardly. Doesn't speak. But something inside him settles. Not relief. Never that. Something else. Resolution. Because uncertainty is gone. And certainty, no matter how heavy, is something you can work with. The river continues to move. Unchanged. Indifferent. As if nothing has happened. As if it hasn't held this truth for years. As if it hasn't carried it silently past a city that never knew. Search teams remain in position. Because Hargrove didn't specify a single point. He gave fragments. East. Industrial access. Enough to guide, not enough to limit. And that means the search must continue. Relentless.
Complete.
Back at the station, the interrogation room sits empty. But it doesn't feel empty. It holds what was said, what was revealed, what was broken. Hargrove remains in custody. No longer silent, but not fully open. Fragments. Always fragments. Enough to confirm. Never enough to give everything.
Control hasn't vanished.
It's just weakened. Reeves returns late in the afternoon. Walks past the room without stopping. Because what needed to happen there already did. Now the case has moved beyond words. Into evidence. Into reality. Into something that can't be denied. Forensics begins reconstruction. Timeline. Movement.
Cause.
Sequence. All the pieces that turn fragments into fact.
The bag.
The items. The location. Everything aligns. Not perfectly. Not cleanly. But clearly. The pattern Hargrove built is visible now. And so are its failures. Because Emily Carter didn't vanish. She was taken. She was moved. And she was left where the city would never think to look. Where time and water would do the rest. Where silence would hold everything in place. Until now. Until a forgotten detail. A missed mark. A single letter scratched into a wall. Pulled everything back into the light. Reeves stands by the window, looking out over the city as evening begins to fall. Lights come on. Traffic builds. People move. Unaware. Because life continues. It always does. Even when something underneath it has shifted. Even when something hidden for years has finally surfaced. The case is no longer a question. It's an answer. Incomplete. But undeniable. And somewhere along the edge of the Thames. Where the water meets concrete. Where the city forgets to look. The last pieces are still waiting. Not lost. Not gone. Just delayed. Until someone finally followed the pattern. Until someone finally saw what didn't belong. Until someone finally understood. That 4 missing seconds weren't empty. They were full. Of movement. Of resistance. Of a story that refused to disappear.
And now.
It's no longer silent. It's no longer hidden. It's here.
Exposed.
Heavy. Unavoidable. And for the first time since 2003, Emily Carter is no longer just missing. She is found. And the truth that followed her into the dark has finally come back with her. The word spreads quietly at first.
Found.
Not announced. Not broadcast. Just passed between rooms, between desks, between people who understand what it means before it's ever spoken out loud. Emily Carter is no longer missing. She is evidence. And evidence changes everything. The forensic lab moves with a different kind of silence now. Focused, deliberate, heavy with consequence. Every item recovered from the river is processed under controlled light, each detail documented with precision that borders on ritual. Because this is the part where uncertainty ends. Or deepens. The bag is laid out first.
Dried. Stabilized.
Opened again under observation. Everything inside is cataloged, photographed, preserved. Wallet. Identification. Cards fused slightly by water exposure.
A key.
Not her house key. Smaller. Unfamiliar. Reeves notices it immediately. Because it doesn't belong. and in a case built on control. Nothing extra is ever accidental.
He doesn't comment yet.
Just watches.
Waits.
Because patterns reveal themselves when left alone long enough. The second recovery is processed next.
Carefully. Slowly.
The room feels different now.
Tighter.
Quieter. Because everyone understands. This is the point of no return. The forensic lead speaks in measured tones. Preliminary observations. Nothing speculative. Nothing emotional. Just fact. Time has altered everything, but not erased it. There are indications of restraint. Not chaotic. Not excessive. Controlled. Consistent with a planned environment. Reeves listens without interrupting. Because this confirms what he already knows. What Hargrove already implied. This wasn't impulsive. This was structured. But structure leaves patterns. And patterns leave traces. They move to trace analysis. Fibers. Residue. Fragments invisible to the eye, but preserved in the smallest spaces. That's where the truth usually hides. Not in the obvious, but in what remains when everything else is stripped away. Hours pass. Then more. The lab continues. Relentless. Methodical. Every piece cross-referenced. Every detail aligned. And slowly something begins to surface. Not from the river. From the body itself. A residue. Unusual. Not from the environment. Not from water. Something applied. Something controlled. The analysis deepens.
Chemical composition.
Breakdown patterns. Comparison. The result comes back late in the evening. Unexpected. Specific. Industrial-grade compound. Used in construction. Adhesive-based.
Fast bonding.
High durability. Reeves feels it immediately. Because it connects. The site. The room. The man. Daniel Hargrove. But it's not enough on its own. Not yet. Because proximity isn't proof. It's direction. They need more. They always need more. The key recovered from the bag is processed next.
Cleaned.
Examined. Run through databases. No immediate match. Not residential. Not standard commercial. Something else. Reeves studies it under magnification. Wear marks. Subtle. Repeated use. Not new. Not random. He leans back. Thinking. Because keys mean access. And access means location. Another place. Another part of the system. He orders a cross-reference with industrial lock systems. Warehouses. Storage units. Restricted facilities. The search runs overnight. Thousands of possibilities narrowing. Filters applied. Geography. Timeline. Ownership records. Then, a match. Partial. Not exact. But close enough. An older lock system. Used in a decommissioned storage facility. East London. Less than a mile from the river access point Hargrove described. Reeves doesn't hesitate. A team is assembled immediately.
No delay. No hesitation.
Because this is how systems unravel. One piece leads to another. Then another. Until the entire structure collapses. They arrive just before midnight. The facility is exactly what the records suggest.
Old.
and used. Officially closed. But not abandoned. Not completely. The exterior shows minimal disturbance. No obvious signs of recent entry. But the lock matches. The key fits. Turns.
Smooth. Used.
Reeves feels it before the door even opens. That same pressure. That same presence. Like the room before. Like the blind spot. Space is built to contain something. The door opens. Darkness inside.
Dense. Still.
Flashlights cut through slowly. The beam moves across concrete walls. Empty shelving.
Dust.
But not untouched dust.
Disturbed.
Recent. Subtle. But undeniable. They move in carefully. Step by step. The air feels wrong again.
Too still.
Too controlled. At the far end, another door. Smaller. Reinforced.
Familiar.
Reeves signals. They approach. Open it. Inside. A second room. Not identical to the first, but connected. Part of the same system. Plastic sheeting again, but newer. Cleaner. Maintained. A table this time. Not a chair. Different configuration. Different purpose. But the same intent. Control. Containment. Reeves steps inside. Slow. Measured. Because this changes everything. The river wasn't the only endpoint. This place. This was part of the process. Another stage. Another layer. Forensics moves in. Again. Everything documented. Everything analyzed. And then, another discovery. Not hidden. Not buried. Left. Intentionally. On the table. A small object. Metal.
Worn.
Reeves picks it up carefully. Examines it. A ring.
Simple.
Unremarkable. Except, it doesn't belong to Emily. It doesn't match anything recovered. It's something else. Something earlier. Another presence. Another story. Reeves feels the shift immediately. Because this was never just one. Hargrove's system wasn't built for a single event. It was built for repetition. Controlled. Structured. Repeated. The realization lands heavy. This isn't just a solved case. It's the opening of something larger. Something older. Something buried deeper than anyone expected. Reeves steps back. Looks around the room again. Sees it differently now. Not as a single location, but as part of a network. A method. A design that extended beyond Emily Carter. The ring is bagged.
Tagged. Logged.
But its presence lingers. Because it asks a question no one is ready to answer yet. How many? Back at the station, Hargrove sits in silence again. But it's not the same silence. Not controlled. Not composed. This one is thinner. Weaker. Because the system he built is no longer hidden. It's exposed. Layer by layer. Location by location.
Piece by piece.
Reeves enters the room once more. Doesn't sit immediately. Just stands. Watching. Because now everything has changed. You had another place, he says. Hargrove doesn't respond. Reeves places the photograph of the storage room on the table. Then the image of the ring. Side by side. Silence. Hargrove looks at them. And for the first time, there's no stillness left. Only recognition. And something else. Something closer to realization. Reeves leans forward. This wasn't just her.
No denial. No correction.
Just silence. And in that silence, the truth expands. Beyond Emily. Beyond the river. Beyond the room. Into something much larger. Something that had been operating unnoticed. For far longer than anyone imagined. Reeves doesn't push further. Not yet. Because this isn't the end. It's escalation. And somewhere inside Hargrove's silence, there are more answers. Waiting. Hidden. But no longer protected. Because the system is broken now. And once it breaks, everything inside it comes out. Eventually. Whether he wants it to or not. The question changes everything. Not who is Emily Carter. Not what happened on the night she vanished. Those answers are already beginning to form. The question now is darker. How many others? For years, Daniel Hargrove existed in the spaces between attention and suspicion. He moved through the city unnoticed. He worked temporary jobs. He changed routines. He avoided leaving obvious traces. But people like him don't disappear. They leave patterns. They leave fragments. They leave places behind. And now investigators have found the places. The storage facility becomes the center of a second investigation. A deeper one. One that expands beyond a single name. Beyond a single victim. The moment the first forensic teams enter, they know. This room wasn't created for one event. The signs are everywhere. Not dramatic. Not obvious. But repeated.
Different dates.
Different materials. Different stages of preparation. A system. That word keeps appearing in Reeves's mind. Because systems require repetition. And repetition creates evidence. The room is examined from every angle.
Walls. Floor.
Furniture. Storage containers. Every surface becomes a possible memory of something that happened there. Forensics collects hundreds of samples. Most meaningless. Most ordinary.
But among the ordinary,
the impossible appears. A second set of biological traces. Not matching Emily. Not matching Hargrove. Unknown. The discovery is not announced immediately. Because investigators understand the weight of what they may have uncovered. A cold case solved is one thing. A hidden chain of cases is another. The city reacts differently when the possibility emerges that one disappearance was never isolated. That it may have been one chapter.
not the whole story.
Reeves returns to old files. Not just London. Nearby counties. Unsolved disappearances. Cases that never connected. Women who vanished during ordinary moments. Walking home. Leaving work. Waiting for transport. The similarities are impossible to ignore once placed side by side. Different years. Different neighborhoods. Different investigators. But the same empty spaces. The same lack of evidence. The same impossible silence.
And now,
the same possibility. The review team works through archives late into the night. Boxes opened. Documents scanned. Old photographs examined again with new eyes. Because sometimes the truth isn't missing. Sometimes people simply didn't know where to look. One case immediately stands out. A woman named Laura Bennett disappeared in 2006, 3 years after Emily. Last seen near an industrial district. No signs of struggle. No body.
No explanación.
Another. Rachel Moore. Missing in 2008. Same pattern. Evening. Alone. Routine route. Vanished. Another. Sophie Lane. 2010. A case that had haunted investigators for years. Each one different enough to avoid connection, but similar enough to disturb Reeves. Because now the pattern is visible. The same kind of victim. The same kind of opportunity. The same kind of disappearance. And possibly the same person. The team returns to Hargrove. This time, the interview room feels different. Before, he had control. Before, he believed silence protected him.
Now.
Silence is evidence. Reeves places the case files on the table.
1.
Then another. Then another. Hargrove looks at them. His expression remains calm. But not empty. He knows. You recognize these names, Reeves says. No response. Reeves opens the first file. You know these locations. Silence. The question is whether you remember them. A pause. Hargrove finally speaks. You're trying to create a connection. Reeves nods. Yes.
A beat.
And you're afraid it exists. Hargrove's eyes narrow slightly. The reaction is small. But Reeves sees it. You built your entire life around separation, Reeves continues. Different places, different years, different identities. Silence. But the mistake you made. Reeves places the storage facility photograph down. Was believing separation meant invisibility. Hargrove looks at the image. The room. The system. The evidence. You think you understand me, Hargrove says quietly. Reeves answers immediately.
No.
A pause. I understand your mistakes. That sentence changes the atmosphere. Because Hargrove doesn't want to be understood. He wants to be exceptional.
Different.
Untouchable. And Reeves knows that. You thought the pattern belonged to you, Reeves says. Hargrove watches him. But patterns don't belong to anyone. Silence. They belong to whoever finds them. For the first time, Hargrove looks tired. Not physically. Something deeper. The weight of something collapsing. Years of control. Years of silence. Years of believing the world could never catch up. Now catching up all at once. Investigators search deeper into his history. The employment records reveal more. Temporary construction jobs. Maintenance work. Security contracts. Always moving. Always near places where people disappeared. Not enough to convict. But enough to explain. Enough to understand. The same pattern. The same method. The same patience. Then another discovery changes everything. A hidden account. Not financial. Digital. An old encrypted drive recovered from the storage facility. Protected. Carefully hidden. Designed to survive. Experts work through it for days. Trying to unlock it. Trying to understand what is inside. When the contents finally appear, the room goes silent. Not because of what they expected. Because of what they didn't. Photographs.
Notes. Dates.
locations. A private archive. A record. Not random. Organized. Cataloged. Like someone documenting a project. Every investigator in the room understands immediately. This was never about forgetting. This was about remembering. Hargrove kept everything. Not because he was careless. Because he believed no one would ever find it. Among the files is Emily. Her name. Her timeline. Her movements. Everything. But there are others. Names investigators have never heard before. Names without missing person reports. Names without files. Names without answers. The discovery sends shockwaves through the department. Because now the possibility becomes terrifying. Not every victim was reported. Not every disappearance became a case. Some people vanished. And no one came looking. Reese stands alone in the evidence room that night, surrounded by photographs and documents. The weight of it is overwhelming. Because solving a cold case is supposed to bring closure. But sometimes, the truth creates more questions than it answers. Emily Carter's disappearance opened a door. Behind it was something much larger. Something hidden in plain sight. The city wakes the next morning to breaking news. Major breakthrough in London cold case investigation. New evidence suggests wider connection. Police examine possible links to multiple disappearances. The reaction is immediate.
Shock. Fear.
Anger. Because everyone understands what this means. A person can disappear once. A city can explain one tragedy. But a pattern? A pattern means someone was watching. Waiting. Repeating. For years. Hargrove remains silent. But silence no longer protects him. Every document. Every location. Every recovered fragment. Pushes the same message. You cannot erase everything. You cannot control every detail. You cannot bury every mistake. Eventually, something remains. A fingerprint. A photograph. A forgotten file. A single mark on a wall. A clue waiting decades for someone to understand it. And now investigators are no longer chasing a missing woman. They are uncovering the full shadow of a man who believed he could disappear inside his own darkness. But darkness has limits. And Hargrove has reached them. Because the city is looking now. The files are open. The names are returning. And the truth he spent years controlling is finally breaking free. Not all at once. Not cleanly. But enough. Enough to reveal what was hidden. Enough to expose what was buried. Enough to prove one thing. A cold case may sleep, but it never truly dies. It waits. For the right clue. For the right moment. For someone willing to look again. And in 2003, the world looked away. But decades later, someone finally looked closer. The truth does not arrive like a thunderstorm. It arrives slowly.
Piece by piece.
A document. A recovered object. A forgotten memory. A name written in a file that had been closed for years. And then suddenly, the impossible becomes undeniable. Daniel Hargrove is no longer a shadow. No longer a question. No longer the unknown figure standing in the reflection of a parked car window. He is a suspect. A man connected to a cold case that remained frozen for years. A man now surrounded by evidence that refuses to disappear. The arrest itself happens quietly.
No dramatic chase.
No confrontation in the street. Just a small team arriving at his home early in the morning. The same way he lived.
Quietly. Carefully.
Without attention. Hargrove opens the door before officers knock twice. For a moment, nobody speaks. Because everyone understands the significance of that moment. 8 years of uncertainty. 8 years of unanswered questions. 8 years of Emily Carter existing only as a missing person. Now, standing at the center of it all is the man who is never supposed to be found. The officer reads the charges. Hargrove listens. Expression unchanged.
Still.
Controlled. But Reeves notices something different. The posture is the same. The silence is the same. But the confidence is gone. Because he knows. The system failed. Not because investigators were smarter. Not because technology alone solved it. But because one small detail survived. One mistake. One human moment. Emily Carter left something behind. And that single mark became louder than years of silence. The trial begins months later. The courtroom becomes the final stage of a story that started on a rainy London night. The prosecution builds its case slowly. Not through one dramatic piece of evidence, but through accumulation. Because that is how the truth works. It rarely depends on one thing. It depends on everything. The surveillance footage. The missing 4 seconds. The reflection in the car window. The construction site. The hidden room. The storage facility. The recovered items. The forensic links. The digital archive. Each piece standing alone might have been questioned. Together. They create a picture impossible to ignore. The defense attempts to break the pattern. They argue assumptions. They challenge timelines. They question connections. They remind the jury that suspicion is not proof. And they are right about one thing. Suspicion alone is not enough. But evidence is different. Evidence remains. The prosecution returns again and again to the same point. Hargrove did not leave behind one mistake. He left behind a trail. A trail created by believing he was smarter than everyone searching for him. The courtroom hears from investigators who spent years chasing answers. They described the early days. The confusion. The frustration. The feeling that Emily's disappearance happened in a place where it should have been impossible. A city full of cameras. A city full of witnesses. Yet somehow, she vanished. Then forensic specialists explain how one overlooked clue changed everything. The scratched letter.
A
tiny mark. Almost meaningless. Almost invisible. But enough to prove something powerful. Emily was there. She existed inside the story Hargrove tried to erase. She was not a missing person lost in uncertainty. She was a victim whose final moments still carried evidence of resistance. The courtroom becomes silent when investigators describe the room where the mark was found. Because everyone understands the same thing. The most important clue in the entire case was not created by the person who wanted to hide the truth. It was created by the person who wanted to survive. Emily Carter. A woman who disappeared in 4 seconds. But who refused to disappear completely. The verdict comes after days of deliberation. The waiting is unbearable. Outside the courthouse, cameras gather. The community watches. Families of missing people watch. People who spent years wondering whether answers would ever come. Then the decision arrives.
Guilty.
The word moves through the room like a shockwave. Not celebration. Not victory. Something heavier. Because no verdict can return the years lost. No sentence can erase the pain. No courtroom can undo the night Emily disappeared. Justice can answer questions, but it cannot reverse time. After the verdict, Reeves returns once more to the location where everything began. The street has changed. The construction site is gone. New buildings stand where the old barriers once blocked the view. The blind spot no longer exists. The cameras have improved. The city has moved forward. But Reeves stands there remembering. The 4 seconds. That tiny gap where everyone thought nothing happened. For years, those seconds represented failure. A place where the truth vanished. Now, they represent something else. A reminder that every moment matters. Every detail matters. Every forgotten clue matters. Because sometimes the smallest thing is the thing that survives. The community reacts in different ways. Some feel relief. Some feel anger. Some feel only sadness. Because the case reopened wounds that never fully closed. Emily's family speaks about memory. Not about the investigation. Not about the media attention. About her. The person behind the headlines. The woman who loved books. The woman who had plans. The woman who should have had decades more. They say they are grateful for answers. But answers do not replace someone. They only explain why they are gone. And that truth remains painful. Years after the arrest, the case continues to be studied by investigators and crime analysts. Not because of the horror alone, but because of the lesson hidden inside it. Cold cases are not solved by time. They're solved by persistence. By people willing to reopen old files. Re-examine old evidence. Question old assumptions. A forgotten clue can survive for years. Waiting.
Silent.
Until someone notices. The story of Emily Carter began with a disappearance. A woman walking home. A camera recording the last known moment. A city asking how someone could vanish so completely. But it ended differently. Not with mystery. Not with silence. With a truth that refused to stay buried. The rain that fell that night is long gone. The street has changed. The people involved have changed. But the memory remains. A reminder that behind every cold case is not just a file. Not just evidence. Not just headlines. There is a person. A life. A story. Emily Carter was not the 4 seconds missing from a camera recording. She was not just a name on a poster. She was not just another unsolved mystery. She was someone who mattered. Someone whose final act was leaving behind a clue that would one day bring the truth back into the light. And that is why cold cases remain open. Because silence is never the end. Because evidence waits. Because memories survive. Because somewhere inside every unanswered question, there is a detail. A forgotten moment. A hidden piece. Waiting for someone to find it. And when that moment finally arrives, the past speaks. The truth returns. And the darkness that once protected a secret has nowhere left to hide.